how's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some creativity, time to get into some animation, time to get that imagination all psyched up. And it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Viktor Safonkin. And I'm probably saying that wrong. A lot of times I try to find people that are maybe not as getting as much exposure these days. So please let me know in the comments below. But he's a very surrealist painter, illustrator, maker of beautiful visual imagery. In the vein of almost like a Salvador Dali, he comes up with these really intricate and elaborate worlds and imagery. Reminds me of kind of like a Dali mixed with a Geiger. Really interesting. So I'll just leaf through and show you a couple of his images here, and I will link to, as always, more stuff down below in the description if you guys want to check out more of his work, which I would really urge you guys to do, because I think his stuff definitely inspires creativity for sure, and anyone who can inspire creativity I think is worthwhile of pausing and taking note of. And also his draftsmanship is really good. You can see like right in there's some really strong anatomy and layout and composition as well. So anytime you can blend those with imagination is always amazing stuff that comes out of there. I think I'll leave it on this one right here while I share with you guys a couple of quotes from him, and these are kind of little snippets, but I thought they were interesting information morsels to devour for sure. And that was the image of my own interpretation of the irrational world. And I think that's what most of us as creative people, which you guys are, even if you don't do anything today or tomorrow, you are creative people, is trying to put down in some form, whether it's music or animation or illustration or sculpture or anything, the way you particularly interpret the things around you and the things that you've experienced, and trying to get that out to most accurately depict that line between brain and final product, and trying to get that. And the other one was penetrating through the misty substance, I can see manifesting details of the future paintings. And I thought that one was interesting, of trying to find different things throughout your life, and always having that mindset of what can I glean from this, and how can I use this experience to help shape the stuff that I'm working on, or that imagery that you saw a long time ago, how it affects your current work, or that movie that you saw, or a book that you read, or the speech that you attended, or any of that kind of stuff, and how looking through that haze of just, especially in this day and age where we have just a glut of media shoved at us at all times, and looking through that haze and trying to pick out each and every individual morsel that speaks to us, and then using that stuff to help inform and build up your unique voice or view, that personality that you want to infuse into your work. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into some animation. This is the Primo Boy rig. It's set up a little bit differently than other rigs, so that might come into play when we're animating, but we'll go for it. And if we come into some struggle spots, we'll just work through it. It is a little bit of an older rig. It's I think the first one they have listed as far as age-wise, it's Creative Crash. If you guys want to check it out or try it out for yourself, I will throw a link in the description below, along with more stuff about Viktor as well, if you guys want to check out more of his stuff. And if you're not familiar with what we do here, we give ourselves 48 frames. It's 2 seconds of animation. We do this every day. And go off and find a rig that I've never used before that's a free resource that you guys can play around with, and we kind of go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, hang out with me while we animate, little bit of instruction or guidance or kind of talking through the thought process while we're doing it. And overall, the main goal of this stuff is to hopefully encourage you guys, to make you feel like you're not alone in your creative day, and maybe inspire you to go off and create something of your own, whether it's because you learned something through this stuff, or you disagree with me and you wanna, or you have a different idea or a stronger idea or any of that kind of stuff. And then don't hesitate to share back anytime you guys are creating stuff, so I can give you some thumbs up and feedback and encouragement as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and get in here. Now, if you've been following along for the last week and a half, about that, we've been doing Jumpvember, which is a jump animation every day for the month of November. And we're going to continue that again. I thought for this one we'd do more of kind of like a quadruped style jump. So we'll use the hands and the feet, and we'll have them just jump from up here to down there. So let's get in there and let's start doing some posing. And we want to start off with a good storytelling pose here. And we are using Autodesk Maya 2014. If you want more information on that, definitely check out the description below as well. Beautiful program. Wonderful program. Use it every day for at least the last, 2 years? 3 years? 2 years. Has it been 3 years that I've been doing this? I've been doing animation off and on for the last few years, but really finished up school. And anyways, so let's create that storytelling pose, and definitely check out Autodesk Maya. I think this is a very interesting rig. There's some aesthetic choices that I think work for an older style rig, and I personally think that it works pretty well. So let me know down in the comments what you think. If you don't like this style of rig, if you really do, let me know. Okay. So just want to, like I said, we want to do more of kind of a quadruped style. Now, it doesn't mean this is a quadruped, but something where we use the hands in conjunction with the feet on the landing and on the anticipation or takeoff of the jump as well. Just since we're trying to mix it up, not doing the same kind of jump each and every day here. Okay, let's go ahead and rotate the head down. We'll have them look down, forward. Bring the hands in a little bit more. Now, one thing I am noticing, there's a little bit of deformation there, so let's see if we can't work that out a little better. This one seems to be okay. It's not perfect, but it's a little bit better. Let's bring it down a little bit. Bring this foot back and out a little bit more. I gotta be careful of that knee. Feels like almost like a little kid kind of a rig, like just with the very colorful and shape-driven controllers. It's very interesting style, I think. Let's get these hands, see if we can't get a little bit better posing here. interesting hand pose here if we can. And now, are there thumb controllers? I don't really see one here. I don't really want to do the geometry stuff, so I'll just leave it for how it is now. Let's pull this hand down, make sure it's planted there. Probably did a little bit of rotation that way. And we'll relax this finger down a little bit more. And this one as well. And that one we can do a little bit of that. Okay. I feel like that works. Again, I kind of would like to do a little bit of a reverse arc, but I don't know if that's going to be possible here. No. Okay, we'll keep that how it is. And let's pull the head up a little bit more. And turn off our grid here. And let's go ahead and save our file. Now, like I said, it's a little bit different how this rig's set up, so I'm going to try selecting everything and setting a key, but hopefully that doesn't mean that, oh, where did everything go? Okay, let's just go in individually and try it that way instead. So I'll grab the feet controllers, the hand controllers, hip. This and that, and let's go set a key there. Now let's see if I go to frame 6 and push that forward. Okay. So we're just going to do individuals rather than group everything and set a key. Might make the approach to the shot a little bit different. Well, I'm sure it will, but we'll work through it. Like I said, it's definitely a different setup for a rig, kind of an older way to rig a character than most characters are rigged these days, but we can still do it. Again, we're just kind of going through and individually selecting everything and setting our key here. Make sure we got everything locked down that we already did. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Go ahead and set that. Okay, now let's go ahead and go to 6. Okay, do a little bit of anticipation here. Just a little bit of movement there. Okay. Go ahead and save our file here, and let's go and get our mid position here. Let's start landing, our basic landing here. Okay, now again we didn't set our key the other way, so that's why I said it's going to be a little bit different. Make sure we hold that stuff. And it's not great timing, but again we'll mix all that stuff up here. So I'm going to go up and over. Go ahead and raise that up a little bit here. Bring that back and drag it a little bit. Now we are using IK for everything, so we got to be careful about doing too much stretch. Obviously, right here is a good example, but I don't need too much of that. Let's go ahead and pull the chest up and pull that back a little bit. Get the head back. silhouette through there, so maybe we'll bring it back and do something kind of like that. It's fairly good. Good clean silhouette is what we want here. Okay, so let's make sure we lock down all the important parts here. And see, we didn't lock down everything previously, so it means we gotta go back in here. Maybe we should have set a key on these hands, but we'll deal with it. Or we didn't do the one with the chest or the feet. That was kind of my bad there. Zero that out. But it means we'll get into making a more unique pose this way as well, rather than doing more of a copy of what we had before. Just duplicating what we had on 13 and 12. And again, we'll replay the timing and do all that here as we get going, but just want to kind of build what we have for right now. Let's zero that out. Go push that out a little bit more. Right there. Go ahead, bring that back a little bit more. Look out. Bring the hips down a little bit more. Back. And this is definitely one of those examples where we are doing more of a pose-to-pose style animation than straight ahead. And again, it is still very straight ahead, but more so than we normally do, where we kind of keep to only a couple poses. Again, we want to try and get a good silhouette here. Bring that down a little bit more. Okay, now let's look at that. Obviously too fast and everything, so now let's get into doing our timing. We've got a really rough version of our posing for what we want, but let's go ahead and okay, why does it keep doing that? So just if I grab that, what is that? Okay, let's do this. See if we can just use the controllers and turn everything else off. See if we can get in here and try that. I'm going to save our file as a separate version just in case we have any problems, and this is why I always say to save multiple versions and to save often, because you never know. Getting into stuff, there's I mean, I imagine there's somebody who's just so absolutely involved in Maya that they know every single in and out of every single script that you can use and everything about all of the rigs and everything. But for probably us laymen as animators, you know, we're focused more on the animation aspect and less on the programming aspect. So I suggest to save multiple versions and to save often. And if it would finish loading here, that will be wonderful. Okay, that was taking a little too long, so I just paused it real quick. Let's get in here. Okay, so we should be able to select everything and start being able to do some holds here. And let's give ourselves an extra frame in between the error. So we make sure. Maybe even one more. Just feels like it's a little too fast. less on the landing, so it'll hit a little bit harder. And again, we'll go in there and polish everything else. That feels a little better. Okay. Let's set a key like a 2. And bring that here for you so we can. Set a key at 9. Give us a couple of frames there as well. Let's see how that looks. And let's give us about 4 more frames there. And about 4 frames in between there. Really want to get a good hold there. And let's bump that up to 48 so I get our right number of frames there. Maybe 2 more frames. Let's see. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So let's save our file here. And let's turn everything back on. And let's start doing some tweaks here and mixing things up. So let's grab the feet. We want to hold those till about 21. We can keep this one probably down an extra frame. And we can do some ball roll here, so it's like maybe you can have it start 1 frame sooner so you get 2 frames of that. And let's see how long we can keep that foot planted on the ground. That should help. Let's look at. This needs to be probably over a little bit more. Get a bit of arc there if we can. And slow into it a little bit better. Want it to be almost a straight down, not completely, but very close to a good arc here, and then just plant down. Probably even more there. hips are really important to get and lock down a really good arc, get our timing right on there. I'll really dip it down low there. Oh, let's make sure we lock that in there. So get that little bit of scoop down. Might be a little too high. Let's see. That feels pretty good. So let's look at our graph editor here. There's some hiccups in here, so let's go ahead and try and mimic a very similar line that we had before, but be a little more polished. So let's see now. And like I said, we're really just looking for this arc. If we track the hips here, we got that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. This needs to be a little bit higher there. This needs to be probably a frame sooner. I'm looking at it. Let me go down there. And back up a little bit. Let's look at it now. Okay. Again, let's go ahead and just look at our translate Z's here, make sure that feels about right. And again, we just don't want any bumps or anything in our curve. Feels okay. And again, we're trying to do this within an hour, so obviously we have to not be too picky about each and every arc, but we want to still get some nice arcs in here. Set that there. Let's really drag that foot a little bit more. Try to get a nice transition from that to that. A little less ball roll. You know, that's probably too far stretched out there. So we'll go ahead. Again, that was one of the things that we had to, we talked about being aware of, is that since we're using IK and these have the ability to stretch as far as we want, we can grab this foot and really just crank on it and it's not going to separate. We have to be careful that we don't do too much of that. We can do a little bit of stretch there. Even that feels a bit too much here. Which is funny because like right here it's not stretching at all, which is weird. Oh, gotta make sure I grab the right thing here. So let's stretch it a little bit. I think it's the roll that does it, that allows the leg to really stretch out. So I'll leave a little pepper, a little bit more of that in there, just so you don't get so much variation from one pose to the next. And then we'll go ahead and bring it up a little bit. Almost zero that out, and we'll leave a little bit of it in. Drag it back more, lift it up. Drag it a little bit more. I'm trying to get a nice arc on this foot as well if we can. And get that ball roll out of there. Give me some rotate up. Make sure I'm in the right frame here. How did I jump over there? Let's just take that, mimic it to there. Rotate it up. I would like a frame where it's really dragging back though. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to mix with our timing. Delete that one. Delete that one. Okay, now let's start looking at our graph editor because there's some bumps and bruises in this guy. So let's bring him back a little bit there. I feel like the translate Z had some, yeah, see, like right here it's got some wonkiness in it, so we want to kind of clean that up a little bit more if we can. Let's look at it now. And let's look at the rotate X. I'm sure we've got some peaks and valleys going on there. Too much. It's just it just feels too broken there. Flatten it out there. Let's look at it now. It feels better. I think we need to look at our translate Y. I think this one should actually be a little bit higher. And this one should favor that position down more. Look at that rotate X and almost get rid of it there. Really have it be a flat. And again, we'll have to adjust this foot so that they're not, so we can get a better silhouette in between them, but we'll get there. It's too much movement there, we gotta still bring it. Okay, now let's look at the other foot. And again, we'll go ahead and redo another pass, I'm sure, at that other foot, but let's bring that down, do let's look at how much we gotta clean up our controllers and our tangent handles, everything here. Just try to get those all to feel a little better. Let's say translate C. Again, we want to keep the integrity of kind of our keys that we had before, but just try and see if we can get a little more polish out of them here. And sometimes that means deleting a key. Sometimes it just means tweaking it a little bit more. Okay, let's see how that still plays out here. Okay, this needs to be lower. Feels a little better. Okay, let's go ahead and save our file, and let's take a look at the hands. Keep it planted for about 2 more frames. We can probably even keep it planted until 21 if we don't get too much stretching here. And we'll keep it planted at 20. At 21, we'll lift it up. We'll do some rotate here. And again, most of the videos I don't use the universal controller. I'll go in and do each and every value itself or attribute itself. But sometimes if I'm doing pose-to-pose stuff, I really want to get in there and need some sort of a breakdown in between there so it doesn't pop too much. Yeah, let's grab everything that we have. We'll delay it a frame here. Probably even one more frame we could delete, I guess. Forgetting that much. Nope, it's too much. Drag it here. Delete this one. Let's see. Maybe get another breakdown in there. And again, this is pretty much on ones when we're getting in here, so. And we did move the hips and stuff, so we gotta kind of adjust adjust the arm posing a little bit more. So we've got this. So let's go to swing. Forward and then back a little bit. Drag it back a little more. Let's see. Let's set that one. I like that one. We'll kind of let it get there. Let's drag that wrist a little bit more. Drag it here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll still drag it a little more here. Okay, go ahead and move it. Now let's keep it where it is. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of tweaking to do with this one, but that's okay. I'll drag that. There, just slam it down. So it swings forward, drags back. Don't think I like that one. Let's go forward. I'm gonna have to polish that arc a lot better, I feel like, but I think the idea works. Okay, so let's look at the translate Y's here. I'm gonna kind of keep them where they are here. Maybe a little. Yeah, because we kind of keep it on ones there, so I think that works for okay for there. Let's look at the translate Z here. keep this pretty close to what we have right now. Just buffer it out a little bit. I like to keep my stuff as clean as I can here. I think what I should do is go into there, do some rotate Y. Come on. Looks a little better. Zero it out, so make sure we kind of compensate for that. I'll do some rotate Z as well. Or not. And let's look at the rotation here. That needs to be clean. That needs to be cleaner. I feel like that could probably go like, yeah. See, we had a couple of little flips here. Let's leave that. Let's go drag that a little bit more. Drag that a little bit more. Let's go turn it here. Let's look at the rotate X, Y, and Z on this one. Delete that. And let's get the rotate Y. And rotate Z. There we go. If we kept it kind of where it was and let the graph editor do it itself, we get this weird flicker because this was kind of that medium pose between here and there, but that would flicker because it would get a flat and then a thin and then a flat, so you always want to kind of favor that even if it's not as clean of a graph. Let's watch it again. And you get that little bit of drag in the hand and the slap down. Feels pretty good. And again, this you definitely spend a while polishing this stuff up, but I'm trying to keep these within an hour. So let's go ahead and look at the other hand here. realistically I'd like it to hit. Yeah, let's see if we can't make it hit at 29. We'll just work with her posing a little bit more. Just so it's not lean into it a little bit more. Oh, you know what we could do? We'll go ahead and do some rotation magic where it's touching there. So we're going to put me out at 30, but that way we can still get it on the ground. Oh, come on. Bring that back down. Okay, set that. And bring our rotation down, so we go. Let's still do more. Let's look at that now. Let's go ahead and bring that down a little bit more and drag it. I like that one. I feel like that's a fairly good pose there. I do need to get into these fingers here. Alright, I guess they're going to give me some issues here, so let's see. Yeah, let's get the rotate X here. Straighten it out maybe a little bit more. Go down. Go back up. That feels pretty good. Probably needs about 4 more frames there. So let's turn that off. Let's grab these. 37, make that a 48. So get that little bit of settle there. And give me maybe another frame to get to that recoil. So let's see. I just feel like there's enough weight in those arms. I don't like them hitting at the same time, but I feel like the weight's better this way, so I'll keep it. And let's look at the translate Y's here. Make sure that we get a nice, good amount of movement there. Let's look at our translate C here. That should probably be higher. Let's see. That feels better. Okay, let's do some stuff with the toes. Drag the toe there. Drag it there. Flip it up there. Flip it up there. Let's work it out. Okay, I'm sure I'll have to do a lot of cleanup there. Let's look at that. Just a little bit of toe drag. Probably even go one more frame with it dragging here. We need it pointed there though. Maybe one more frame. Okay. Now let's see if we can't get into doing some of these fingers here. I'm gonna just grab each and every one of them. I'll do it that way. Three right there. I'm sure this is sure there's supposed to be a controller I'm using, but right there. This one especially. Let's raise it up so it doesn't intersect there. let's look at the other hand. Again, that's not probably the proper way to do it, but we'll use it just since it's kind of some funky things with this rig, but we'll keep it going here to a little more of a grip there. Going up 2, hold to about 7. Try to get back there a little bit more. noticing now is that I didn't do enough. Kind of, I think we did a little bit of curl in these guys here. So rotate Z. Just a little bit of micro movement there. So hold, we have about 3 until about 8. There we go. We'll have 17, 19. Just so I get that little bit of micro movement since we put some in on the other hand. Again, we can definitely go in and polish this thing up for at least probably another hour, just going through and really making sure we locked it all down. But I think overall that works pretty well. The idea works at least. Got a little bit of drag throughout the posing and everything here. We'll just kind of frame through it one more time, see if anything kind of sticks out to us. Like this could probably be tweaked a little bit. Let's look at our translate Y here. Translate Z. See if we can push it forward a little bit more. Maybe drag it a little less so we can get out for our silhouette. Set that on. Let's delete this and see where it goes. That feels better. Just clear silhouette. Helps the movement read when it's going by so fast. You really got that slap down on those hands. It feels better. I don't think we did any toe on the other foot, so let's do that before we call it. And a little bit, I think, on the neck. Just so we can get that little bit of recoil there, too. So, let's go ahead and key the toe there. And let's get started with some toe movement. So we'll drag it here. Again, drag it there. Let's swing up. Flatten there. Okay. Not a lot of interesting stuff on the toe, but a little bit more so it breaks up the movement on the foot a little bit. There we go. Just so we can see it gives that little bit of overlap in the feet. A little more life. And let's look at the neck here. Let's do a little bit more rotate down there. Just a little bit of overlap here. Go and drag it back there. Down there. Up there. Back down there. Okay. Pretty close to what we had. We just added a little bit of overlap in there. And this is too much and too late. Put 1 frame sooner. Needs to happen about a frame sooner. And this needs to be less movement and more of a ease into it here, so let's do that. Let's delete that. I felt a little bit harsh. We need another frame or two there. That feels better. animation stuff. The rest is just kind of layout and composition. Probably tweak it a little bit more before I upload it. So let's take a look back at where we start. We're looking at the beautiful work of Viktor Safonkin. And he said, the image of my own interpretation of the irrational world. And that was his kind of description of his work and what he aims for. And I think that's a great goal to have, is to have that, try and reproduce the way that your brain interprets information that's uniquely to you. I think, not trying to really get someone else's style, but develop your own. It doesn't have to be revolutionarily different than someone else's, but that it does speak to you particularly. I find that there's a big in the visual art world that people try to mimic other people's styles, or don't even really bother to think of creating something really truly uniquely them, but rather, oh, this is my version of that guy's work, or my version of this guy's work, rather than this is just how I draw or how I animate. And I feel like there should be more of that. So that's a personal goal. Let me know if you think differently, if you think it's better to just try and I'm not saying don't try and understand by doing studying other people, but really when it comes down to the work that you want to produce, making that uniquely you. And I think those are the people that usually people want to mimic, because their work is really good, rather than just well, his work's a lot like that guy, oh, his work's a lot like that guy. I'd be like, no, that's that person's work. And the other one was, penetrating through the misty substance, I can see manifesting details of future paintings. And I think that's a great way to look at the world around you and the time that you spend doing things and all of that stuff, is that you're always looking, always keeping your mind open, always keeping your eyes open for where you can get the next inspiration for your next idea, and where you can come up with new versions or new ways to tell a story, whether it's through music or visual stuff or animation or whatever. But you're always looking for different characters you can base people off of, or different dialogue, things that you hear that you can put in your shots, or any of that kind of stuff. It's always good to have that mindset of almost always working, and not that it's always 100% of your time, but that there's always that at least 10% of your brain power going, oh, you know what, that's a really cool way that they did a hand pose, or that's a really cool, unique facial expression that somebody came up with, or kind of stuff. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you do, let me know in the comments down below. If you learned something, definitely let me know. Or if you disagree, or you have a different way or a different methodology that you work, definitely share that as well. And if you do end up using this rig, let me know what you ended up coming up with it as well. And that goes for anything that you guys are creating. I love the creative process and the creative journeys, and I hope that you guys are continuing on yours every day. And I love you lots. If you're watching this, you are the creative future. I totally believe in you. And that being said, we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.